I craved an escape, a real one. The city's endless drone had become a constant ringing in my ears, so I found what seemed like the perfect solution: a tiny, isolated wooden cabin nestled deep in the American woods. The online photos showed a rustic paradise, a place where the only sounds would be the wind in the trees and the crackle of a fireplace. I packed a few books, some food, and drove for hours, leaving the concrete jungle further and further behind. The first day was everything I had hoped for. I hiked, I read, I just sat on the porch and breathed in the clean, pine-scented air. As night fell, the woods came alive with the gentle chirping of crickets. I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me, something I hadn't felt in years. I went to bed early, cocooned in silence, feeling completely and utterly alone, and that was a good thing. Or so I thought. The peace shattered around 2 in the morning. I was jolted awake by a sound that didn't belong. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate footsteps, circling the cabin. Crunch dot dot. Crunch dot dot. Crunch on the dry leaves and twigs outside. My heart hammered against my ribs. I crept to the window, my hands trembling as I peeled back the edge of the curtain. There was nothing. Just an impenetrable wall of darkness where the trees began, and a thick, low-hanging fog that swallowed the moonlight. I told myself it was an animal, a deer, a bear maybe, but the rhythm was too steady, too dot 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 human. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day, a sense of unease clung to me like the morning mist. Every shadow seemed to stretch a little too long. Every snap of a twig in the woods made me jump. I tried to shake it off, to rationalize my fear, but it was useless. That night, I sat by the window, determined to see whatever it was. And just like the night before, around 2 a.m., the footsteps returned. This time, however, when I looked out, I saw it, a shape. A tall, slender shadow standing perfectly still, just at the edge of the tree line. It wasn't moving, wasn't making a sound. It was just dot 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 watching. I felt a cold dread seep into my bones, a primal fear that screamed at me to run. I scrambled for my phone, but the screen confirmed my worst fear: no signal. I was completely cut off. I spent the rest of the night huddled in the corner of the room, a fire poker clutched in my hand, my eyes glued to the window. The shadow eventually vanished, but the feeling of being watched never left. The moment the sun rose, casting long gray light through the trees, I felt a sliver of courage return. I decided I had to leave. I was throwing my things into my bag when I decided to take one last look outside from the safety of the doorway. My blood ran cold. Sitting on a top step of the porch was a small, cracked porcelain doll. Its painted-on eyes seemed to stare right through me. It hadn't been there when I arrived. It hadn't been there last night. That was it. That was the final straw. I didn't bother packing neatly. I threw everything into my car and peeled out of there, kicking up dirt and gravel, never once looking in the rearview mirror. The drive back to the city was a blur of adrenaline and fear. Pulling into my own driveway, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of civilization, I finally allowed myself to breathe. I was safe. I was home. I stumbled inside, locked the door, and collapsed onto my bed, utterly exhausted. That night, as I lay in the familiar comfort of my own room, I heard it again, faintly, at first, from the hallway just outside my bedroom door. Crunch! A slow, heavy, deliberate sound on the hardwood floor. It wasn't a creak of the old building settling. It was the same rhythm, the same weight as the footsteps that had circled that cabin in the woods. Every night since, I've heard them. And every night, I lie awake, paralyzed by a single, terrifying question. What if I didn't truly escape? What if something from that cabin followed me home? Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had an experience you can't explain, let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more strange tales, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe out there. My friends dared me. They actually dared me to spend a whole night in Asterisk, the Asterisk cabin. You know the one I'm talking about, the old, decrepit place on the very edge of town? The one everyone whispers about, the one they say is cursed. Of course, I just laughed. A curse? In our town? Please. I was so sure it was all just local folklore. something to scare the kids. So I accepted the dare. What's the worst that could happen, right? I packed light, a heavy-duty flashlight, a bag of chips, a couple of sodas, and my phone. Standard stuff for a night of proving my friends wrong. I got to the cabin just as the sun was setting, casting these long, eerie shadows that stretched out like fingers from the woods. The door creaked open with a sound that seemed straight out of a horror movie, and a wave of musty, cold air hit me. Inside, it was just empty. Dust everywhere, cobwebs hanging like forgotten party streamers, and a silence that felt heavier than sound. I found a relatively clean spot on the floor, set up my little camp of snacks, and settled in. I texted my friends, "So spooky in here," with a laughing emoji. For hours, literally hours, it was nothing. Just me, my phone, and the sound of my own breathing. I was starting to get bored, thinking about the victory lap I was going to take the next day. I must have dozed off for a bit because when I opened my eyes again, something had changed. The air was freezing, not just chilly, but a deep, biting cold that went straight to my bones. My breath was fogging up in front of my face. That's when I heard it. A whisper. It was so faint at first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe the wind whistling through a crack in the wall. But it didn't stop. It got closer, clearer, like someone was moving around the room with me. And then it said my name, right behind me. Jack ... My blood ran cold. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I scrambled for my flashlight, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I clicked it on, sweeping the beam across the dark, empty room, and then it flickered. For just a split second, the light died, and in that flash of darkness, I saw it. Standing in the far corner of the room was a shadow. It was tall, unnaturally tall. And where its head should have been, there were two small, glowing points of light, eyes. It was just standing there, watching me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my entire body was encased in ice. The whisper wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a voice, raspy and ancient, and it filled the entire cabin. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Leave now," it said, "or you'll never leave at all." That broke the spell. I didn't think, I just ran. I scrambled out of that cabin so fast I tripped over the doorstep and fell onto the cold, damp ground outside. I didn't stop to see if I was hurt. I just got up and sprinted to the woods, not even daring to follow the path. After what felt like an eternity, I finally stopped, gasping for air, and risked a look back. The cabin was a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky, but the windows were glowing with a faint, pulsing light. It was like something inside was still awake and still watching me. I never told my friends what really happened that night. I let them think I just got scared of the dark. I let them have their laugh, because some doors, some places, they should stay closed forever, and I will never, ever go back. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more. Stay safe out there.